All right, we are recording. Thank you, Eric, for reminding me. The one thing that everyone missed that is watching the recording is that Nate just told everyone to go fill out a CFP for ApacheCon. Just do it. Did I sum that up right? All right. Next on the agenda is John Meredith is going to give a project update.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Anyone here see? Yes, I see a thumbs up. Good stuff. All right, so this is just a quick recap of what I sent around to the mailing list. Josh, Mackenzie, Jordan, and I have been trying to take turns to give everyone a more concise summary of activity on Jira and just try and get a pulse on how project activities are going. So it's my turn to give the update this week. So I think it's good to talk about first just general progress about how many tickets have been open, closed, those sorts of things, and how many we have left open. And then after that, I think it's probably worth opening up for a slightly broader discussion about how we work out how we get to a beta and a release candidate and those sorts of things. One of the things about looking at the tickets rather than just doing work is it makes you think about how do we actually go through the phases of shipping something. So the great news is that things seem to be moving. We are closing more tickets than we're opening, which is nice at this point. A lot of the tickets that we have opened against the 4.0 alpha are testing tickets now. I just did a quick tally beforehand. Of the testing tickets, I would say 15 or so are flaky test tickets that we have that David Catwell's opened up, which would be great to resolve as far as getting the CI infrastructure getting green as soon as possible so that we can start finding real problems with the CI rather than having to wade through all of the noise that you get if you've got flaky tests. I can't remember if I said, but there were only 2 new tickets opened this week that were marked against 4.0. Now, I didn't go through and do a triage of all new tickets open to just check whether that's discipline on tagging new tickets or whether it's truly that we only opened 2 new ones. But the good news is that we closed 11 of them, including one of the newly opened ones. So we're identifying issues and closing quickly. And 39 tickets received updates in the last week. So that's obviously people touching things and commenting and moving around and categorizing, which is good. Some notable things that landed: the Python 3 support for CQLSH has been committed. So thanks to everybody who fought the long, hard fight to get that to happen. So it's been there for a long time. There was some activity on the Windows port, which given the questions in the last community meeting on the mailing list about whether Windows is actively in use, there are at least people alive there. Very excitingly, the documentation was moving as well, so that's a huge piece for people being ready to adopt 4.0. There's significant changes there, and it's really nice to have some of those pieces in place ahead of a release candidate so that we can point people to that so that they can actually have more chance of success deploying things. And like I said, lots of activity on the flaky tests. So I would encourage people, if you have a spare moment and you're a masochist, try and fix a flaky test because everyone will thank you for it. So I guess that leads me on to the final thing, which is that there was a very old ticket we got a package for, which was 2848, which adds clients API support for passing down timeouts. And there were some questions on the mailing list as to whether or not we should be landing stuff like that now. And that just had me thinking about the actual release process itself. When people were at ApacheCon last year, there was I wouldn't say there was complete agreement on what it means to go through the next few phases with differing opinions, but we're currently in what we're calling alpha. We'd like to get to a beta, and I personally think it would be good to get that done in the next couple of months, given we've got a few alphas now, and there's nothing that seems truly egregious that would be stopping that from happening. But obviously, that's just one person's opinion, and we're an Apache project, so we have to find some way of getting to consensus on when we get to call things beta and when we get to call them release candidates. I don't really have a proposal at the moment, but if this were a commercial software project being aggressively project managed, as we go through these phases, you would start aggressively cutting anything that was non-essential, and you would be trying to hit a release date. Obviously, we have different drivers than commercial enterprises, but we do all have a common goal of wanting a stable, solid release that we can run in production and be proud of. So I don't know quite how we get to that. One thing that could happen, rather than having a large, wider discussion on a big call like this, is find a few people that care and would like to get together and write up a straw man proposal that we could vote on, or I'd like to open it up to anyone else that has opinions, thoughts, ideas.
That sounds like a good approach to me as well. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying this is enough of a project impacting thing that we should put this back on the list because it's super important. Everyone's going to want to put some 2 cents into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So any discussion here, I think, would be about concerns that people are worried about, and finding who we actually care about moving that forward and getting it up on the list.
Yep. I think one thing that can help us there is the work that several folks had done toward defining the release cycle document that we'd published on Confluence a few months ago. I think that can provide a useful template for some of the discussions on scope, along with some of the previous discussions about the focus on quality and freeze. So that might be a good starting point for work toward defining those.
Excellent. So I'd like to volunteer myself to help with some of that, and I don't know who else is interested in.
I'd be happy to as well, yeah.
I'd be interested as well.
In the interest of diversity of contributors, is there anyone?
I was going to say, I know a couple other people who I'm sure would be interested, but I don't think are on the call with us right now. But
okay, then
that's why we should bring it to the list.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Does anyone have concerns or things that would be worth raising right now? Talk about that. Talk about going through those phases. Anyone worried about being able to? Not so much a
concern. I think an area that would be interesting for me from like an education standpoint, so that we all don't have to go read the code, is an area of a bunch of work, and it's what came up on the mailing list. Sorry, 1 second. I'm gonna have my dog stop moving stuff in the back. Okay, sorry. Like what was brought up on the mailing list about like certain changes that affect the protocol. I'm not sure it's clear to like all of us, again, without like saying like all of us go read the code, which is fine. But if someone could sort of describe very clearly why certain changes need to be made, like in the major release to the protocol, because that's often a reason. It's like, oh, we're going to have to change the protocol specs, so we have to change this for 4.0. So I'd love if there is someone who knows about that in depth who could write about that on the mailing list before we kind of have that discussion. At least it'd help me better decide the scope, because I think right now that's a driver of a few of the larger changes for 4.0 that are left over.
Yep, yeah, makes sense. And it also kind of raises one of the discussions that came up in ASF Slack yesterday, along the lines of a potential rush to get a raft of changes into the build because the train's about to leave the station and the next one might be some time out, with an alternate view being that it's useful for us to have a good conversation on scope, decide what's in and what's out, and be able to deliver more frequent releases to incorporate those changes later too.
Agree.
Okay, so what I'll do is we'll take that to the list, see who's interested in contributing, and just to wrap up talking about status, just a chance to say thanks to everyone for all contributions, and it's really nice to see it moving.
Hi, Vinay here. I would like to sign up for release stages discussion as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, Vinay.
There we go. That'll make you feel better, right, Scott? Oh, no, it was Jordan who raised the concern. Well, so
no, I didn't raise
so I
anything.
get the notes
I
right.
just want to learn more. I didn't raise any concerns.
My concern is about diversity of employers for contributors. But
besides the dog, there are no concerns. Right, got it.
Sorry, I was driving. I couldn't respond on time.
No problem.
I hope that's not you typing in the doc, Vinay. Just drive, okay?
All right, so I don't know what we have next on the agenda, Patrick.
I popped something up here, and this is just, Vinay, I'm sorry, you and I talked about this briefly, but I thought this is open. I wanted to open this up as a discussion about the sidecar project. In my community travels, I'm finding a lot of sidecar projects that exist in the Cassandra community that have nothing to do with the sidecar project, and that is currently in place. And it seems like a good chance to gather more contributors with a common cause and kind of revive that topic. But I'm just not super sure where to proceed with that.
Patrick, you mean sidecar projects or Kubernetes operators, or both?
Sidecar projects, yeah. And well, all of those things that have to do with operations, yeah. Which was, I think, the original intent of the sidecar project was, how do we make operations suck less with Cassandra, right?
The ratio of projects to users in terms of sidecars and Kubernetes operators is probably approaching 1-to-1.
It's
maybe
getting
even
pretty
a little
high.
higher.
Yeah. Well, and if we're looking for more contributions to the Apache Cassandra project, I think this is a great opportunity to bring some new people into the fold. And I just saw this as an awesome opportunity. But it was just really interesting as I saw it. And I know this has been something that's going in, it's a sub-project right now, and almost like a special interest group. But I just thought I would open this for discussion. And if it's just, sorry, talk to the mailing list, that's fine. But I thought this was a good opportunity.
Patrick, in your discussions with folks who have developed their own implementations, have you found people who are willing and interested to contribute?
Yes, and it's because I think everyone has an itch to scratch, right? But as you noted, when you look around, I'm seeing this as like how like the early thrift days were with drivers. There's just, everyone has one. Sorry, Nan, I'm not calling you out. But there was just a lot of them because there was different opinions on it, and then there started to coalesce. So we may be in that mode right now, but I don't know how that how well that's received. I mean, maybe everyone does have their own itch to scratch, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if folks are interested in contributing, the Dev Slack is a really good spot for them to get in touch with others and to figure out where would be a good place to start. And it's probably a good onboarding point.
Yeah, there's CEP1, but CEP1 seems to be focused just on the sidecar project as it is in GitHub. Are there better places to push people?
I think there are Jiras for all the work that is happening in CEP1. So Jira would be the better place for us to get started on that, alongside with ASF Dev Slack channel.
Okay, well, I'm trying to round and herd people towards the project on this. I think this will be an ongoing topic throughout the year.
Hey, Patrick, this is Dinesh here. So I just wanted to add that there are a bunch of ideas that we would like to implement, and we would definitely like more contributors to help build the sidecar. The thing is that since the project is currently focused on testing and getting flow out, it's less of a focus for folks in the community, it seems. But if somebody definitely has good ideas and wants to help out, they can propose something on the dev list, or even open up a Jira, or just share a document of what they would like to contribute, and they can get feedback from the community. That's the only thing I basically think I can sign up for at this point.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, Dinesh, is everybody's jamming hard for 4.0, and that's awesome. So fresh blood would be very welcome. That's how I'm thinking about it.
There's also like patches for it for reviewers potentially to look at if they just want to be able to see like where things are at or something. So.
Okay, cool. That's all I had.
One thing Michael Schuler mentioned in the chat was that the website was updated yesterday with several new doc commits live. Would John Haddad or Dinesh want to share a bit about the work toward herding some of those to the site? Oh, John, I think you're muted.
So while John fixes his audio, yeah, so we've been working with Deepak, who's the tech writer as part of the Google Summer of Docs code, and I believe Joey and John merged a bulk of those Jiras. There are quite a few still to go. I did send out an email with a few of the links with before and after. So I think a bunch of our to-dos from the documentation have been eliminated. There's still a lot that needs to be updated. But there is documentation about specific 4.0 features. We have updated the Dynamo architecture. There's still some to-dos that need to be resolved there. And then I think Jeff Carpenter donated his chapter from his book, and that has been fantastic as far as data modeling goes, because I think a lot of our users, the big issues they have are with data modeling, and it didn't really have much on the website before this, but we got that in. And also I think there are more updates coming in for configuring and operating Cassandra, which I think Joey and John are reviewing at this moment. So a lot more to go.
Thanks, Dinesh. Yeah, and as part of that, I wanted to echo the public thanks to Deepak Vora as part of his work on Google Summer of Docs to produce this incredible body of documentation, to Jeff for donating that chapter as well. These are huge contributions to the project and address a giant unmet need. I particularly appreciated the before and after links that were sent around that go from having to do on the site to a huge body of documentation. That's awesome. We should probably get something out on the Twitter account about those as well, and likely announcing them separately too. Maybe first the data modeling piece, and then second, some of the new examples of docs that are live.
Sure.
So whoever manages the credentials and tweets on behalf of Cassandra.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Nate knows.
I think that Jeff Jerson is the only one that has a password right now.
Ooh, bus factor 1.
Yeah.
We can have it set up so that not everybody even needs the credentials. I think you can just authorize people to tweet from that user, but like associated with an account.
That's what I was just going to say. There's several of us that have access, and we do it through TweetDeck, allow to tweet as. Myself, I just added Mick, Jeff Chirsa, I don't know who else.
Could you add me?
Sure. Shoot me a quick note on Slack if you do want access to that, and tell me your Twitter handle.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, is there anything else, anyone? There was a bonus section. Thanks, Scott. And it is really cool to see how the docs are really growing out there. The summer code, and then I really appreciate what O'Reilly just stepped right up to do. That's pretty amazing. But I can tell you through my conversations with O'Reilly, they're being super cool with the open source projects right now, and I think they see this as just an easy one for them. So that's hopefully more to come. All right, is there anything else? Anybody have anything? Great. All right. Well, that was 27 minutes-ish, 20 minutes of good discussion. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and I'll get that posted and get the docs straightened up. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today.